What's up, Halas Huddlers? Training camp is upon us. Football is here. We only have a few more Sundays left without football. This is amazing, amazing time. But, Kyler Gordon, you are on notice. You are on notice. I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. Tonight with me is Bob Weiss, my good friend and co-host. This is the Halas Huddle, where even the star-type players aren't let off of the leash.
That's right. Welcome back to the Halas Huddle. We made it through that lull of the offseason. We are back. If you're as excited as we are about talking football again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you comment below about everything we're going to talk about in this episode. I'm sure you'll have lots of feedback for what we got to say. So, Rob, what do we got on top?
Yeah, again, Kyler Gordon, man, you know, we had that little bit of the news as they were during their OTAs, and I was glad to see that he was there, right? Like, that was important. I think it was good for him to show that he was, like, healthy and coming back, and then instantly he wasn't participating, right? And there is, like, that lingering issue of what it always is, those soft tissue issues. Then we get notification he's going on the PUP list. And, you know, there's no timetable for return. We don't know exactly where, you know, or when we're going to see him play. But guess what, guys? I am out. I am out on Kyler Gordon. I am done. Done with him. And here's why I say this. If he shows up and he plays, I have no problem saying good job, right? Good job. Good job. But what this means right now is Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen specifically, you need to look and find a replacement. You cannot count on him to be on the football field. Availability is the best ability. If he is not there, I don't care how talented he is, the team's not getting anything out of you. So, yes, if you look at the stats of that defense, when Kyler Gordon is on the field, they are exponentially better. Exponentially better. But when he's not there, which seems to be too often, you got to do something. You got to find an answer. Is it, you know, Malik Muhammad? Is it, you know, someone else on, maybe Terrell Smith can be the guy. I don't really know what the answer is. Personally, I think Muhammad is better as a boundary corner. But if it means you got to do it and you got Stevenson playing on the outside and you know, Muhammad is a little bit lean, so maybe he's got to kick onto the inside because he can't play against those big-bodied, taller receivers on the outside. Maybe that's the answer. We got to see how this plays out in camp. I hope Kyler Gordon can prove that he can stay healthy for most of the season, if not all of it, but I'm not counting on it, so therefore I am out, Bob. I am out.
Yeah, I mean, that's strongly worded. Obviously, just being out on a guy that we think can be the star of this defense. I totally understand what you're saying. Like, we can't count on this guy. We just can't depend on him being the star of the defense. You can't anymore. And that's incredibly frustrating. So it's hard to disagree with, you know, just saying, hey, it's time to just move on and anything we happen to get from him will be a bonus, but otherwise he's not our nickel week one, so we need to just be prepared for that. So again, hard to argue with that, but what I would say is I feel like there's just a lot of finger pointing at the man himself, and I don't think we know enough. Now, when the media in the press conference with Ryan Poles was very say, hey, what's going on? Is he not doing what he's supposed to be doing? What, you know, I'm sure they're trying to get to the bottom of it, but the media, I don't think, might not be as necessarily in the dark as we are. So are they asking these leading questions, knowing there's something going on behind the scenes? They know Kyler isn't buying into his plan for him. And maybe he's not sticking to it. Maybe that's just speculation on my point with the questions being so pointed the way they were. Because if they're not, and Kyler Gordon just isn't, it's just not getting better despite all of his best efforts, then I think the media is way out of line with the way they were peppering Poles with these questions. So, I mean, we need to kind of separate the injury from the player from the man. Obviously, the player, we love the player. The injury is totally annoying and it's just not going away. But the man himself, we just don't know enough about what's going on with the man. And I just hate to see all this finger pointing and all this stuff that, like, if he truly is doing everything he's supposed to be doing to get back, I would just hate for us all to turn on him because it's just not working out, as frustrating as it is.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into what was said by the coaches and by Ryan Poles, right? But Poles kind of deflected when he was given those questions, right? I mean, he's like, look, we believe we have a good plan in place. There's just not this consistency we need. And it's not necessarily consistency from the player, but just being able to actually consistently be on the field. It just kind of felt like a political type answer and not a direct like question. So to your point, I think it's kind of telling the way that, you analyze that. And I didn't think about it until you just said it now. It's interesting to know or to think about, because obviously they do have insider information that they cannot give. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I wasn't the only one putting him on notice. Ryan Poles said it. They want him on the field, but he needs to. He's going to have to build trust again within the coaching staff, right? Ben Johnson said, "Get healthy." Those were his only 2 words for him. You could tell there's some frustration. We talked about it early on last season. Dennis Allen called out Kyler Gordon as like a centerpiece for what he envisioned, and it just obviously didn't play out enough. I mean, what did he play? 5 games last year? I'm blanking off the top of my head. Gary knows instantly.
The playoffs, I think, probably about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a frustrating situation because the talent is there. He is very talented. And again, I mentioned it. Like, if you look at the numbers, the defense is so much better when Kyler Gordon is healthy and on the field. It opens them up in other ways that this doesn't work with some of these backups. Elijah Hicks, he's technically a safety, but could he fill in at times? Like, it's just one of those situations. Like, now you're, and Ryan Poles mentioned this too. Like, you don't want to continuously have to shift guys around, and you want to find continuity. And if your corner that is you're counting on consistently isn't there, or he's in and then now he's missing 4 games, then he comes back and then he's hurt again, like that shuffle, it just makes things very difficult in a situation that we're going to mention a little bit later. The cornerback position maybe not be as good as it looks on paper.
Yeah, it's possible. And the names that even fill in for Kyler Gordon, none of them are really that exciting. Josh Blackwell kind of has the athleticism you look for at that position, but he's really just a special teamer. Jalen Jones is getting some look there. He might have got the first reps in camp so far, but he's had enough time to prove himself as an NFL player, and he's just more an adequate backup. Cam Lewis is the one I think is really interesting, the guy they signed from Buffalo. I think he's got some nickel ability. But he's, well into his career, 29 years old. It's not like he hasn't had a chance to step up and be that guy. Elijah Hicks is very interesting. I feel like he always gets the most of his reps, and, maybe he hasn't really had a chance to play that position yet. So I'm really interested to see where that goes. But, just none of these options are all that great. But to your point, like, I just feel like it's almost like Kyler Gordon isn't even on the depth chart anymore, and they have to start right now. Week 1, day 1 of training camp, and figure out who is going to be the nickel. So, Halas Huddlers, why don't you get down in those comments? Tell us who you think the plan has got to be for the corner. Is it just Kyler Gordon, or just overreacting, or one of these other guys? Who do you want to see down there?
Yeah, let us know. Comment section, blow it up, guys. FGB, whatever you guys want to say down there, but continue the conversation. We love it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We want to keep this thing rolling. We have a lot of fun with it. The season's right upon us, and I can't wait to just keep pushing this content out. I'm actually working on something that I hope could potentially give us an insight onto some roster building with some behind-the-scenes coding. Yes, coding, which I am not a coder, that I'm working on that could potentially, set us apart from some of these other sites and podcasts out there. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Looking forward to seeing that. Nice teaser. All right.
Yeah. We'll see how it works. So my wife is going to be out of town for about 7 to 10 days on a cruise in the middle of August. And I've already started the process. Already started to learn how to code with R and a little bit with.
Not that you're looking forward to those 7 or 10 days so much. Already planning exactly.
No. I'm not. But that's going to be the time that I'm going to hone in on this project, and I'm really hoping before the season starts, I have it done.
Nice, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that. So also, with training camp kicking off, we get coaches finally behind the podium talking about what's going on. And so it was, not just Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, but also Dennis Allen had some time behind the mic. So, Rob, why don't we start with the Ryan Poles press conference? Other than the Kyler Gordon, which he was the top of his press conference was all about, what did you take away from what Ryan Poles told us?
I mean, to be honest, it was a lot of nothing. There was just, he feels good about the roster, but yet still doesn't feel, he didn't want to pick a position and say, I feel really good about this position, including quarterback. Not saying that there's like a quarterback controversy or that he's not, thinking Caleb Williams is his thing, but he just wanted to basically say, I should never feel comfortable as a GM. I should constantly be looking to make and improve this team. So I did like the answer, but again, it's just kind of not a lot of fodder for us to talk about. He talked a little bit about the defensive line, where these players are right now. Interestingly enough, I almost said Malik Muhammad again. Dio, right? Like, I mean, he's making progress to the point where it looks like he's, could potentially be ready by week 1. I don't know. Like the way things are going, it's kind of looking that way. I know. I mean, is he motivated? Is that all it took? I don't get it, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think, to be honest, I think it's got to be Austin Booker. I think that's got to be your starting edge next to Montez Sweat. But Montez Sweat, also a guy he mentioned. He wants to see him continuously improve off a season that I thought was actually statistically very well for Montez Sweat. So again, it just felt like a lot of nothing. Nothing really stood out to me as like, I don't know, newsworthy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things I think, when he speaks, he's not lying. So that's what I try to really try to tune in, because I don't think he's bullshitting anybody, which also he gets very guarded because he wants to make sure he doesn't say anything he should have. But in that discussion about the defensive line, there was a question about bringing in free agents. And, the crux of the question was, you want to bring somebody in who's comfortable with the role you have for them, more or less saying that you're not looking for a starting defensive end. You're looking for someone to come and take the kind of alternate reps, the rotational reps, right? And at first he wasn't giving anything. And then after that follow-up question, he basically said, well, yeah, we're looking for somebody to come in and fit in with what we're doing, right? So I think that kind of confirmed that, Joey Bosa, you want to come in here, you're only playing 35-40% of the snaps. You're filling in for our stud bookends in Austin Booker and Montez Sweat. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Sorry, Justin, Jadeveon Clowney. It doesn't look good, right? Like reports are he's going to Cleveland.
Yep. So that's not going to happen. The other thing is, it's not really breaking news, but again, just the reiteration of the Darnell Wright extension. And I think that that's an interesting conversation coming on the heels of the defensive tackle that shall not be named in Philadelphia signing an absolutely ridiculous monster contract. Is it $40 million a year? Was that what it was? Or $35 million a year? It was 4 years, $140 million, I think.
Yes.
So just stupid money for a guy who's good, but is he like, that's top of the NFL money? Is he really top of the NFL money? He wasn't top of the NFL in all these top 100 offseason lists. So what does that mean? Darnell Wright's now looking to make $35 million as a tackle, right tackle, and Penny Sewell, I think, is the top of the market right now at $27 million or something like that. So that's just an interesting conversation. And, again, he's not lying to us. So when he says it takes two to make an extension, I feel like, he's saying, hey, we're offering what we're offering, but he wants more. I think that that's basically what he's saying there. And then the last thing is something that just tripling down basically after Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams a little bit on Luther Burden, just him being really excited about what Luther Burden's potential is. Ryan Poles tripled down on that. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, not related to the press conference, but because we did mention Luther Burden. Rome Odunze is looking pretty good with that foot in his route running. So that's making me feel really good about this offense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be disgusting. And even with Colson Loveland, I mean, Caleb Williams said in his press conference, I'm not going to go into too much of Caleb's press conference, but he expects Colson Loveland to be the best tight end in the NFL. Right? So,
I'm good with it.
It could be just an absolute embarrassment of riches, or we could just be getting excited. I don't know which one it is just yet, but that's really exciting. So I think that kind of covers the polls press conference. Anything Ben Johnson said that stood out?
Yeah, so in the polls press conference, somebody had asked, how you transition from being the hunter to the hunted now that you sit atop the NFC North, right? And it was kind of relayed that same question back to Ben Johnson, and how do you go about doing that? And he said, guys, that's for inside information. That's inside our room, not for us to discuss. I love how sometimes he just puts that out there. Like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Don't ask questions like this. And realistically, there's nothing to that. Literally nothing to that. But I do think it's funny how he comes out and says that stuff. Where we'll get to Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is very open in some of the things that he says. The Ben Johnson thing, again, he talked a lot about Caleb Williams. 70%. It's always going to be, that is the goal for every quarterback in his mind. Every quarterback should aim for that 70% completion percentage, whether you get there or not. I don't think he was as concerned about that percentage as he makes it seem openly to us, right? I think, you always set a goal when you set a boundary or a hefty goal, and whether you get there or not, the goal is to get as close as you can. So do I think he wants to see Caleb Williams be better than 58%? 100%, yes. But is he going to be upset if he gets to 63 or 64% and he's still throwing the football away and, protecting it to the point where he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league at not turning the ball over, especially on early downs? Is he going to be happy with the fact that he is going to continue to keep those sack numbers down and continuously keep the interceptions down? Yeah. I don't think he's going to be mad about it at all. And those numbers are just going to continuously climb. We didn't mention it in any of our other podcasts, but Caleb Williams ranked 51 out of the top 100, right? For all of the NFL players based off of NFL player rankings. And I think it fits. I think that's where he should be. Maybe I would have had him a little bit higher, but he's still projecting and going to be, he's not hit a ceiling yet, right? And I think Ben Johnson made it very clear all of the tools that Caleb Williams has in his press conference, and that stood out to me. He seems still very excited, and hearing him talk about it just makes me think that much more. He wanted to come here because the Bears got Caleb Williams. Like, I think that still to this day, that was a big driving factor, as much as Packers fans don't want to admit it. I don't know. Those were the things that really stood out to me. The attention to detail, again, he constantly drives that home. Being in year 2, how we're going to transition of, we're not going to have those conversations, or we shouldn't have to have some of those conversations that we had before. It should just be quick. It's just recall now. And he said he's seeing that. He's already seeing that. And Caleb, just in the conversations that they have. So I'm excited. I think year 2, this has got to be the big jump. And I think this team is ready to take it.
Yeah. And, really the two things that I noticed from Ben Johnson that are kind of related, but you've already mentioned the one about how it's already looking way better at this point of the year than it did last year. It's great to kind of be starting at that point, but he also reiterated again, a question about, sustaining success. He said, we're not sustaining anything. We starting over again. Right. So I think it's just kind of, when you blend those two things together, the fact that things already look better at this point of this offseason, at this point of training camp than they did last year, and they know they have to build up from the bottom again. They're not starting so far down within themselves anymore. They're kind of getting themselves a running start to kind of leap up again. So I love those two kind of competing ideas working with each other, actually. So I'm kind of excited about that.
One thing we didn't mention, and it was talked a little bit in the Ben Johnson press conference, but I thought it was really brought up more in the Ryan Poles press conference, was the left tackle position. And I just want to point out, because I think Gary called me out either in the chat or in the comment section. Look, Theo Benedet might not have been taking any reps at left tackle, but he was mentioned by Ryan Poles that a possibility at that left tackle position. So please, Gary, take your GM's word for it. He is still in the conversation.
I believe Ryan Poles deferred to Ben Johnson for the left tackle conversation, and it was Ben Johnson who heaped all.
Am I putting him? Am I jumbling?
Theo Benedet was
okay.
second in what Ben Johnson talked about for left tackle. However, my understanding from practice today, Theo Benedet only got second team reps on the right side, and it was
which is where he should
be, and Jedrick Wills on the left. So
yeah, and he talked about how Wills has put on a lot of muscle mass, double digits in muscle mass, so that's a good sign as he's still trying to come back from his injury. Braxton Jones is healthier than he's been in years, so hopefully that was the driving factor on how poorly he played last year. I know, we had thought that was the case, and then it just he never seemed to get better, but maybe it just took that long, right? And I just want to see how that whole left tackle position plays out. But I can tell you for a fact, despite a specific news article that is out there, that if Ozzy Trapillo wins this position at the start of the season, Justin is going to be on this show eating a shoe. Eating a shoe.
So just to give a little bit of background to what this means, there was a horrendous article by Jason LaConfora on Fansided about interesting position battles across the league, and the Bears left tackle position was on there, and Jason LaConfora's prediction of who's going to win the left tackle battle in training camp this year is Ozzy Trapillo. So that's the background of that, and Justin very cleverly said, if that happens and Ozzy is our number one week one left tackle, that he will eat a shoe on this podcast. So get in the comments below if how likely Justin eat a shoe.
Oh, I had to get it out there.
So one thing I just think was hilarious, I think from Ryan Poles or Ben Johnson, I forget which it was, I think it's telling for the last 5 minutes we've been talking about left tackle. Kron Amagaji is still on this roster. End of comment. Anything from Dennis Allen's press conference that you want to talk about?
Tyrique Stevenson was put on blast, man. Put on blast. I mean, in a good and bad way, right? I mean, he literally said it. He can cut up film, and you'd look at Tyrique Stevenson and just be like, wow, this guy is a star. And then you could cut up film and put it next to it and be like, wow, this guy's got some work to do. So, I mean, he did not hold back, and I hope Tyrique Stevenson, who's in a contract year, is really diving and focusing on what he needs to do to transition from being just a mediocre corner 2/3 in the league and really putting a stamp on things, because, he talked about Jalen Johnson a little bit, who's looks to be fully healthy. Let's see if that actually plays out. That's where I was talking earlier. Like, maybe the cornerback position it looks better on paper than it really is, because Jalen Johnson, elite until last year, right? Playing through injury. Can he come back and prove that, it was just the injury? Tyrique Stevenson, up and down, up and down, up and down. Kyler Gordon can't stay healthy. What are they going to do if this revolving door at corner keeps happening? I don't know. I thought that was very telling. He talked highly about Devin Bush. I thought that was telling. Those were the things that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, so kind of interesting with I think they were in separate parts of the press conference, but when you mentioned Jalen Johnson earlier, I think in the press conference, he was talking about, the pass rush, but how it's really pass defense, and how the pass rush and pass defense, the secondary play, really work so hand in hand. And I think it was kind of a veiled, just attempt at saying, if we get better cornerback play on the outside, our pass rush is going to improve. You think about all the corners that they played last year and the outside that weren't near all-pro caliber that you hope are getting with a healthy Jalen Johnson, right? So if we have a healthy Jalen Johnson, a Tyrique Stevenson who comes up to his potential a little bit, that in and of itself is going to help the pass rush get home. I also think it was, I don't want to say unfair to Tyrique Stevenson the way that he kind of put him on blast, but you can tell that Dennis Allen loves being a football coach. And you can tell he loves talking ball. And at this point in the press conference, I think the media did a good job of getting him on a roll. And so, when Tyrique Stevenson came up, he was just on a roll and he just couldn't stop himself. So I'm not going to say it's unfair because, one, I also don't think it's anything that Dennis Allen hasn't said directly to Tyrique Stevenson's face, right?
Exactly.
So it's not like he's saying one thing to the media and not to the player. And it's something that we all just know. We see the heights. We see the highlights. We know what he can do. And we also, know when he's slacking off and, giving up easy completions on third down when he shouldn't. But that was my takeaway. It's just like, they say they want, players who just love football. They wouldn't know what they would do with themselves if it wasn't for football. It just seems like Dennis Allen's that kind of guy as a coach. So
I think he said 25th training camp. So that, he's been around the block, right? And before I forget, Kobe Bryant, the epitome of what he wants from a football player. So I highly, that was my best, in my opinion, was the best offseason signing that they made. I think that is something to be talked about. And then he did give some props to Dylan Thieneman, the rookie safety who coming out of Oregon, who, we all talked highly of. I had him as a top 10 pick. I know Jamal Adams just signed with the Vikings, but thank you again. Let's Skull. I was just on their podcast. Thank you again, Vikings, for letting Dylan Thieneman drop to the Chicago Bears.
So as we look for a segue to this next segment, I did see, I forget it was on The Athletic or somewhere, just some type of article that actually predicted the Bears defense able to break out this year and be, actually a good defense. And the justification was they were very bad on first and second down, but they were near elite on third downs. So, a lot of people are saying, they might be more their first and second down, but this article is like, well, if they can tighten that up, if they can get better run defense on first and second down, they're already elite on third down. So, that was just kind of something I thought was kind of interesting to kind of flip the way, we've kind of all been looking at this defense, where they're actually not that far away from being pretty damn good if they could just stop the run on first and second down.
Stop the run. And by the way, Vita Vea is not the guy to help them do that, in my opinion. I don't see that happening. We're just throwing that out there real quick.
I think that might be a future episode discussion, but I think that's worth diving into. But kind of speaking about things that we've seen on the Bears recently, also on The Athletic, there was a very interesting article ranking. This is throughout the league. They send a survey out to people in the league about who are the top play callers in the entire NFL. I think if you're any somewhat knowledgeable football fan, I think they're going to know that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay were 1 and 2. But number 3 right there, Ben Johnson. And I thought it was interesting. Not only was he number 3 this year, he was number 3 last year too. So just a lot of respect for Ben Johnson throughout the league. So Rob, what do you think that this means for Ben being kind of this respected? Anything?
I don't think it matters to him. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things. What it does matter is Bears fans, we finally got one, right? When would you have ever thought to hear that the offensive guru, the mastermind of the Chicago Bears offense, was a top 3 play caller? It would not have ever happened. I don't know. I'm like flabbergasted. I can't even get the words out. That's how amazed I am at the situation. That's all I care about. Be a top 5 player caller for your entire career, and I will be happy.
Yeah, and it's not just that he's ranked number 3. Again, this is a survey that went out to league personnel, coaches, front office people. His 3rd ranking, but the highest ranking came in at number 1. So several, at least one person thought he was the best in the NFL, and the lowest was only 4th. Nobody that this survey went out to thought that he was any lower than 4th. Sean McVay, lowest was 6. Kyle Shanahan was also 4. So it's just like the Bears unquestionably have one of the best offensive minds in the entire league running their team. And that's just really cool to think about. The other thing that's kind of interesting now, Rob, I know you pointed this out in kind of our pre-show talk, but this top 10 list is just littered with guys who come off of that, I guess it's at the top level of Mike Shanahan tree, but off of the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay tree. Matt LaFleur, Liam Cohen, Clint Kubiak, Mike McDaniel, right? 60% of this list is that coaching tree. So, that's awesome for them. But I guess, Rob, do we have any hope that eventually this might become a Ben Johnson tree list?
I don't know. We're going to find out this year. You guys brought it up, and I give you mad props for talking about Declan Doyle as a potential loss, right? I mean, Press Taylor didn't have a good time prior to being here in Chicago. I mean, he struggled when he was with the Jaguars, which, by the way, I did not realize that he is related to is he form? Yes.
Still the head coach. He's still the head
He's
coach.
still head coach of the Bengals. I couldn't remember. He was on the hot seat. So, yeah, I did not realize they were related. But again, will Declan Doyle prove himself now going to a situation where he's going to be the guy, right? I mean, he's going to be the guy in Baltimore to make the play calls and truly install his own offense. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, let's see how that plays out. I'm okay if he's not. I'm okay if he's a one-off. I don't really think there's much of an Andy Reid tree, and I'm okay with it. So as long as we have the guy, I don't really care.
100%. We don't need to give all our opponents all of our secrets. Wishing Declan Doyle the best, of course. Absolutely wishing him the best. So,
yeah.
All right. So, you good, Rob? Anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, look. Briefly, there was another article that came out, or I shouldn't say article, but it was based off of ESPN. I'm sorry, DraftKings Super Bowl odds. The Chicago Bears aren't in it, guys. They're not in the top 10. The Packers are, barely, but they're in there. So it was interesting to see that only one NFC North team was in that top 10. I think that kind of stood out as not a red flag, but just like a wow, because in my opinion, the NFC North is the toughest division in football. So I'm really curious just to see how this plays out. Is it that they don't think that, they only think one team can truly be the team to get there and make noise? Do they truly think that, none of those teams have enough to get over the hump and actually be Super Bowl content or winners? I don't know. But, you're going up against the Rams, who are clearly the juggernaut going into the offseason. You're going up against the Chiefs, who are always the darling. You're going to get against the Eagles, who have proven them time and time again that they deserve to be in the conversation. The Bills, who just can never seem to get there, but have to one time, right? You have to think it'll happen. Maybe DJ Moore is their answer. I don't know, but it's frustrating to see. But guess what? It's just more to think about as the Chicago Bears players look for fuel to push them over the edge and achieve greatness this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have necessarily a problem with the Bears maybe not being the biggest Super Bowl favorite in the division, even though they won it last year. What I think is very interesting is that the Bears are 16th in Super Bowl odds right now. And, as much as I would not be shocked if this is a 9-8 or 10-7 season, I still think that record is more about who's on their schedule than the Bears being an average NFL team. So that's just very curious. Now, I also would just want to, I don't know how you would even go about looking at these types of odds, but, maybe it's just hard to pick any one of those top three teams, Lions, Packers, Bears, to win the Super Bowl. But maybe if you're picking what division is the Super Bowl winner going to come out of, maybe, the NFC North would be higher. But,
I guess I'm still frustrated by the fact that they have the Patriots ranked 6th when you have the Bills ranked 2nd. Because that kind of conflicts against the thought that, well, it's just a tough division. But I'm sorry. I like Drake May. I think he's going to do great. 1 for 7, though, targeting A.J. Brown in training camp so far. Just putting that out there.
Meaningful sample size.
I just don't. We talk. I'm not a big strength of schedule fan. I think it's stupid. But when you look at it retroactively, you can see, okay, well, you had an easy path. And look, the Bears going into last season, strength schedule was one of the top 3 toughest schedules. You look at the end of the season, they had one of the easiest schedules. It was bottom 5, right? You look at the New England Patriots schedule from last year, and it was the easiest. And I just don't think they're going to have that clear of a path again. So is it just because they made it last year, you kind of have to put them in defaulted in, or can you use your brain and come up with odds that make sense? I'm sorry, they don't deserve to be anywhere higher than the Bears, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of a tough case because, I mean, they do have exciting young quarterback. We like our quarterback. They like their quarterback. They have a very highly regarded head coach. They have a very highly regarded offensive coordinator. They got weapons that they like on offense. Don't forget, not just A.J. Brown, but Romeo Dobbs is a solid 2/3 receiver in the league. So, I mean, they did some things that I can understand. Their defense was very good, right? And it's one thing to retroactively look at their regular season schedule and realize how easy that was. But they still made it through the playoffs. Now, it was an easy path through the playoffs, too. They played a Denver Broncos team without Bo Nix. I understand that. But, they still
barely won.
They still got it done. They still, won those playoff games. So, the difference in odds between the Patriots and the Bears, the Patriots are 16-1, Bears are 25-1. So it's significant, but it's not like they got the Patriots all the way up with the Rams at 6-1 or the Bills at 10-1. They're still a little bit lower, but whatever.
Means nothing at this point. So
yeah, the Chargers, I think it's 17-1 is more interesting to me. What have they ever done?
They hired Mike McDaniel.
Oh, right.
Top 10 play caller.
Top 10, not number 3.
No, 10.
Right. So whatever. We'll see. So anyway, great talking real football again. I love getting on Twitter, getting all the updates from the beat writers. Gary's blowing us up again with everything, so that's exciting. We're back. So you guys made it this far in the episode. You're watching, enjoying the episode. Please make sure you like and leave a comment too. It really does kind of help the show. Not just for us, we get to enjoy the interaction with the people listening, but that YouTube algorithm's a real thing. So put a comment, just say, hey, what's up? Fuck Green Bay, whatever you want to do with the comments help.
Yeah, for sure. And, Gary, if you are still listening, if I didn't insult you enough earlier with my Theo Benedet being a left tackle option this offseason, look, I hope he's not. I'm just putting it out there that he could be. I want, you're going to camp a lot, buddy. Find some time. We're going to get you on the show again so we can get some insight information because I cannot go at all this year. So.
Yeah, Gary's going to be our training camp insider whenever we can get him.
That's right. Bob, it's been a blast. I'm glad to be back. Glad to talk to you. Until next week, bear down, claws up.